Thank you all for coming tonight. It's really important for the people in the community to know those who are interested in being our leaders. So we really appreciate everyone participating tonight. We're all volunteers, so we appreciate your understanding of the lights not working and the microphone might be wonky, but we're doing our best. So first of all, I would like to recognize and thank the principal of Godsman Elementary, Joanna Gutierrez. Is she in the room? She has been lovely. Her staff has been lovely. Thank you very much for your generous opening the doors tonight.
We're on a very tight timeline tonight, so if you wouldn't mind, please make sure that you're taking a glance down in front here. Let's go ahead and start on the extreme left with 2-minute introductions.
Yes, good evening. Ooh, this is a great mic. My name is Jessica Sean Paris. I'm representing for Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado, and the East Denver Residents Council and Frontline Black News. I am the only person up here that has been unhoused under this urban camping ban. I've been a victim of bad policy by the Hancock administration. I was unhoused for almost a decade on the streets of Denver. I'm the only one that honestly can say that under this urban camping ban, I was a victim and I was unhoused. I was banned from the Auraria campus for 8 years as a result of the urban camping ban. I do have a bachelor's degree in criminology and criminal justice that I received from Metro State University back in 2012. And after 2012, I was unhoused for almost a decade. I worked with organizations such as Denver Homicide Out Loud, Occupy Denver, and a slew of other organizations. If you don't know me, then you don't really know social justice activism and work, because I've been doing this work for almost a decade. Now my plan for Denver is, I want a Denver that people such as myself, black people, are no longer neglected and maligned, neglected by policies in the city. We need to be the priority. That has never happened in the history of politics. I am the only black first candidate up here. My priorities are black first, but I'm not black only. But my priorities are black first because we've been neglected, we've been redlined, we've been put to the back burner for so long. So I put my hat in the ring for mayor because I feel that everybody up here is not going to put black people first as their priority. They're gonna do this all-inclusive, broad, ambiguous language, people of color, all of this talk. I'm the only one that is literally black first in this race. So ask for your vote April 4th. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Bruff, and I'm running to be the mayor of Denver because frankly I share a vision with you. A vision of our city where employees who work in our city can afford to live here, where families can afford to buy a home, where our kids get a great education, where economic opportunity is accessible to all of us. That to me is the promise of Denver. My family had many challenges growing up. My father, I lost to violent crime. My family received government assistance to put food on our table and keep a roof over our head. My husband struggled with addiction our entire life together, and we ultimately lost him to suicide. I share this with you because these are the issues that I think many Denver residents are struggling with today. And I think we're not living up to our promise to those residents. I look forward tonight to sharing with you ideas and strategies how we can address those issues. But the other thing I know is what we really need is a mayor who can actually implement those ideas and strategies. Being a mayor is an executive job. The mayor oversees a $3.75 billion budget. Over 13,000 employees work for our city. The mayor oversees an airport that's the 3rd largest airport in the world. This is really a job that requires someone with an executive experience. And for me, I bring that. I've run large and complex organizations. Very relevant to this role is I was John Hickenlooper's chief of staff when he was mayor. In that capacity, I helped the city deliver the Democratic National Convention. I helped balance the budget in response to the Great Recession in 2009. I've also been the head of HR for the city of Denver. I know the city team and I love them. But more important than just loving them is I know the city, inside and out. And on day one, I can not only lead the hard work ahead, but I can implement the policies and strategies to restore the promise of our city. Thank you.
I just feel like we owe you 15 seconds for moving while you were talking. Good evening, my name is Al Gardner, and we have 1 minute and 30 seconds. So the first thing I'll say is, as I look around the room, the first thing I notice that we all have in common is that we obviously all love where we live. You would not be in this room tonight with the temperature outside and the other things that we're dealing with to sit here for nothing. That being said, as I sit in this cafeteria that at one point in all of our lives we felt was really, really huge when we were young, I think back to how I was once one of those free lunch kids and went through school, and I was blessed and fortunate enough to go to college and work my way through corporate America to executive positions. One thing that I will say is, in thinking about that and in looking at everyone in this room, the thing that stands out to me is that we need a mayor that can bring people together, number one. Number two, who has organizational skill, strategy, and the ability to coalesce and bring folks together under these difficult things that we need to tackle. They're not easy things, they're difficult things, but I believe that is probably one of the most important things and characteristics that we need to look for in our next leader. How do we do that? Organizational control and really going through city government and determining where we need to trim the fat and how can we consolidate services. One thing we've done really, really well is make it very, very difficult for citizens to access the city services. And that's one thing that I want to focus on if I become mayor. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is State Senator Chris Hansen. I'm so great to be with you here tonight. I'm running for mayor of Denver because we need to build a city that works. What's happening in the city right now is not delivering for its citizens. We can see it on the streets. We can feel it in our neighborhoods. It is time for a reset. It is time for a change. I'm running for this office because I believe Denver is not living up to its potential. We all believe in this city. We know what we can accomplish together, but we're not getting it done right now. And we need to come together to reset in this city. I come to this job with the mix of private and public sector experience that I think can really build a great team to lead the city in a new direction. I've run large business units in the private sector. I then left my job to run for the state legislature, where I've been a leader on the Joint Budget Committee and helping to guide a $40 billion budget at the state level. That's important because this mayor's race is about who can take the city in a fresh direction and tackle these problems. I want to build a safer Denver, I want to build a more affordable Denver, and I want to build a greener Denver. Those are my priorities as your next mayor. And I believe my background and experience puts me in a position to build this diverse and talented team that we're going to need at City Hall to get this done. But this is not abstract for any of us in this room. I am proud to be raising 2 brown boys in this city. I'm a multi-ethnic family. They're in Denver public schools. Our schools are not getting the job done. The city is not getting the job done right now. Just a few weeks ago, I went downtown with my kids on the 15. It was a tough journey. Dad, what's going on at that bus stop? What's going on over there? Why are there folks camped out? Enough. Enough. We need to build a city that works. I'm here tonight to share some of those ideas and plans with you of how we get this done together. I'd be grateful to earn your vote on April 4th. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm State Representative Leslie Harrod. I'm proud to represent currently House District 8 in the Colorado General Assembly. And I'm also proud to bring the experience of that into the job of Denver's next mayor. I will tell you, in my time in the legislature since I was elected in 2016, I've passed over 150 pieces of legislation into law, and alongside of my colleague here, passed a balanced budget of $40 billion. But I'm not new to to this community, I'm not new to this work. I know many of you all here probably are PCPs as well, and have rolled up your sleeves to make sure that people have fair and open elections, and that Colorado is leading the state in that. And I'm proud to say that Denver is doing that as well. But as we know, Denver is not going in the direction I think we all would like to see it go. I can tell you, back in the day when I was working with the DNC, we brought the DNC here to Colorado in rooms just like this all across Denver. I was so proud to bring people to our city and show them what we had to offer in Denver. We were a clean city, we were an affordable city, and people thought we were pretty fun, right? And now things are shifting, things are changing. We know that, we feel it. I know Denver is ready to take on the tough challenges that we have before us. I know we'll talk about some of those today, but I gotta tell you, as I've been having these conversations across the city with over 1,000 people, the issues are consistent, and that's new. Why? Because they're at crisis level. We know that we have to deal with affordability in the city, period. Affordable housing is not accessible for so many across the city. We need more housing. We also have to work with our unhoused neighbors and get them housed. I created STAR, Support Team Assisted Response. I brought Caring for Denver here to Denver to give out over $100 million of mental health and substance misuse support for those living right here in Denver. And that's just the beginning. Denver is ready to tackle our toughest challenges, and I know we can do it, starting with this election. Don't forget, April 4th. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take a minute to thank everyone in here, in this audience, because it tells me one thing, that you care about your neighborhood. I'm Aurelio Martinez. Lived all my life in Curtis Park, the Five Points neighborhood. Still lived it. Graduated from Manual High School as a Thunderbolt. And I just want to tell you why I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor for you. For you in these neighborhoods. The neighborhoods in the city of Denver have lost control. We lost control, and if you're involved with your neighborhood, with activity, with developments and things that are happening in your neighborhood, you know what I'm talking about. It's very hard to get things changed, and when they come to the neighborhood associations and to the residents of the neighborhood with a proposal, a plan of what they're going to develop, what they're going to build, you can bet your sweet boots that it's already been done. And everyone in this room knows how hard it is to get the city and the administration to listen to our pleas and what we want to happen in our neighborhood. That is my priority. That's why I'm running, because I want to bring control to the neighborhood and the residents of Denver to have say what happens in their neighborhood. That hasn't happened. It hasn't happened in a long time, but it will under my administration, because you are the people that live in this city. You are the people that have to deal with the things that go on in your neighborhood. It's terrible. Anything from traffic to noise to crime to development, infringing in your neighborhoods. We don't want it in our neighborhoods, but nobody's listening. We will listen to you. We will listen to you, and we will make sure that you have control of what happens in your neighborhoods, and that's going to be my whole reason for running for this. There's a lot that has to be dealt with in the neighborhood, and I want to just finish just a little bit by seeing everyone here. What I'm seeing, what I'm missing now is the youth. The youth. Why aren't the youth involved? Because they think we don't care for them. We need to do more for our youth, and we will put programs, go back in the past and have programs for our youth. And I know I'm out, but thank you everyone for coming.
Good evening, Southwest Denver. My name is Deborah Ortega. Everybody knows me as Debbie. I am an at-large member of the Denver City Council. I'm the only one up here that's been elected 3 times citywide. And I moved to Denver from New Mexico and actually lived here in Southwest Denver when we first moved here. I went to Kepner Middle School. My first year was at Lincoln, and then my family moved and I graduated from West High School. My daughter is a product of Denver Public Schools, and so are my grandchildren. I'm here because Denver is where I grew up. It's a city that's been good to me. I care about this city, And there are great things about our city of Denver. Great things happening in our city. And yes, we have challenges, but they are not insurmountable. We have challenges that are fixable. I've been working on the issue of affordable housing. I currently serve as the board chair of a nonprofit called Del Norte Neighborhood Development Corporation. We've been building housing across the city for 40 years. I served as our homeless commission director, working on the homeless plan for the city of Denver under John Hickenlooper, working on solutions, putting people to work, helping make sure that as people fall into that cycle of homelessness, that we are helping them get out by helping them become self-sufficient, which is a critical goal that we should all be working towards. We know that some people cannot work a full-time job, but some of them can work part-time, and there's something magical that happens when you assist them in getting back to work. They have that sense of purpose and self-worth and appreciate the programs that have been available through our city to help them. Yes, we have lots of other issues like congestion and traffic safety and pedestrian and bike safety, and I have a plan for all of these issues and look forward to talking about more of them further. I'm here to ask for your support. Thank you.
Good evening, Denver. My name is Terrence Roberts. I'm running to be the 46th mayor of Denver. I am the least likely person to make it onto this stage. I was born in Denver General. I was an honor roll student. I grew up in Northeast Denver. I lived in Park Hill, but when gangs and violence came to Northeast Park Hill, my mother moved us to Green Valley Ranch, far Northeast Denver, but a lot of other families were coming from the 5 Points in Park Hill. So we had the same struggles there. We moved back to Park Hill. I joined the neighborhood street gang in Park Hill. I was a gunshot victim. I was shot in my back during the summer of violence of 1993. I was shot again before I was carted off to Canyon City as a young man. In Canyon City, I started studying revolutionaries and revolutionary actions on how to get things done. I left prison over 20 years ago and I became an activist and a community organizer for issues like what we won't hear anyone saying. We had 88 homicides in Denver last year. Most of those are young Latino men and African American men and women in the city of Denver. The year before that, we had 96 homicides, guys, in the city of Denver. In 2020, we had 95 homicides in the city of Denver. We have enough affordable housing in the city of Denver. We have nearly 20,000 affordable housing units. Affordable housing is owned by developers. It is time for us to start saying we need more public/social housing in the city of Denver. Last year, our public safety budget was $566 million out of our general fund, which is nearly $1.5 billion. Only 2% of that went to housing. I don't even understand how city council is passing a budget. Our most pressing issue is housing. Our violence, domestic violence, all of that stems under our housing issues. But yet, we only have a budget that is only 2% of our needs from our public safety. We need to have a mayor in office who is not afraid to pass a budget that's going to represent all income levels in our city. My name is Terrence Roberts. Vote for me before April 4th with a mail-in ballot. Get registered to vote Denver, and let's put a mayor in office who's a revolutionary. Thank you.
I'm Trinidad Rodriguez, candidate for mayor of Denver. I was born and raised in West Denver by a hardworking single mom who taught me how to serve all your life, even when you don't have time. We confronted challenges along the way, like housing insecurity, mental health struggles, but none of them held us back. Our city actually supported us, like many other Denverites, along the way. And I wanted to pay it forward. So what I did was spent the last 25 years of my life in my both volunteering and in my career supporting Denver's most efficient civic and nonprofit organizations. My financing went to build and my volunteerism went to secure funding to build housing, communities, schools, and health clinics. It was, they went on to serve tens of thousands of Denverites. Now, I've also spent time working in neighborhood organizations like you all do. And my personal commitment has been to downtown Denver for many years. It's a different kind of neighborhood, I grant you, but it's one that I really work to push more actual resident and community voices at the table for our downtown, because the experience of living downtown needs to be honored and protected, just like your neighborhoods. The last thing I'll mention is just my vision and my plan, and what you can expect from me as mayor. My vision is to build a city that is where every Denverite, regardless of their neighborhood, can achieve their version of success. And I encourage you to really think about that vision as we work past our challenges. Trinidad for Denver, number 4, Denver.com. I look forward to the rest of the night's conversation with you.
Hello, my name is Kwame Spearman, and I was born here in Denver, like a few other folks.
Kwame, can you speak from the middle?
Oh, sure. Can I keep time for this? Great. Hello, so my name is Kwame Spearman, and I was born here in Denver, at Rose Hospital in the Hale neighborhood. I grew up in Montclair, and I'm a proud graduate of East High School. But most importantly, I'm a product of this community. And that Denver pride allowed me to go to college and law school and business school with the confidence knowing that I could make changes. And after that, I learned business, the X's and O's of running companies and making companies grow and thrive. And that helped me with the greatest opportunity that I've ever had, saving tattered cover. In 2020, I, along with a friend, put together funding to save our iconic bookstore. And it's been amazing. Every day's been a blast, but the job is hard. And the reason why the job is hard is, you all know, our community is rupturing. The Denver that I grew up in is changing rapidly. And it makes sense, right? We're dealing with a homeless problem that our city's never seen before. A crime problem that hasn't been this bad since the 90s. A local economy suffering a local economy that is suffering in a way that we haven't seen since the 1980s. And our community is falling apart. And we've got to build that. And we build it through the people in this room. We build it through our neighborhoods. I believe that Denver is too large of a city moving forward to have a one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, we need to go to the people in this room, and you all have to feel seen and you have to feel heard. And we've got to build a government that can be responsive to your needs. We need to ask the neighborhoods, what do we do about housing for you? What do we do about crime for you? What do we do to make sure that your local economy is representative of the people who live in it? I believe we can do that, and that is how we build our community, because your neighborhood makes our city. Thank you very much.
Right here, Brother Jeff. That one, Mark. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Ian Thomas Tafoya, and I recognize a lot of people in this room. I'm really excited because I've been part of the neighborhood organization movement since I began working in civics. I showed up to a Denver Parks Board meeting, oh my gosh, almost 15 years ago, and they said, hey, you could testify, and that was the first time I grabbed a mic like this, and who would have thought we'd be here today? I said, why didn't we have recycling in the parks? And they said, it's not really a priority. So what did we do? We went back to campus, organized with residents and with students, and we went back to council with 500 signatures and 500 signatures, and finally, we got the purple dumpsters in the parks. Now, I've applied those same principles of going out and doing the work to pass the laws, to make sure the plans that we work so hard on actually get implemented. You may have voted yes for 306, also known as Waste No More. This year, 71% of the people in Denver did. It impacts 31 million people. I had an opportunity to write it and lead that in a great coalition. But that same meeting for the Denver Parks, I actually met the Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation. And I didn't have a car at that time, and I got picked up and drove to Globeville area, Swansea. And I had a chance to meet so many of the great activists and elders and leaders, some that have passed now, that I've had a chance to work with on so many pieces of legislation and policy. I've worked for 3 branches of local government, the mayor's office and Denver City Council. I run a statewide nonprofit that fights for environmental justice, and I chaired the state's Environmental Justice Action Task Force, which is reforming more than a dozen state agencies for equity. I want to say thank you to the neighborhood organizations here, from Baker to Platt Park to I've worked with all of you on so many things, but it's not just about neighborhood organizations, it's also about merchants associations, okay? There are so many different kinds of groups that are reaching out, who have great solutions. I want to work with them like we have been doing. And I want you to imagine, what if we could do this work every day? That's what it would be like if you elected me Mayor of Denver. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Walsh, and I'm a candidate for mayor. It's quite an amazing thing to be standing on this stage right now, and I just want to express my appreciation to all of my colleagues here. It's incredible to be with all of you tonight. I want to just introduce myself. I am an academic. I'm not a politician. I've never run for office. I'm originally from Western Pennsylvania. I grew up in a steel town, and all the men in my family were steel workers. I escaped that steel town through a wrestling scholarship to Duke University, where I was the team captain there for a couple of years, and made my way west, landed in Boulder, and I've lived in Denver since 1990. I'm a North Sider. I've lived on the North Side for 27 years. I'm running for mayor because I believe there's... Hello? I'm running for mayor because I believe there's two Denvers. There's the Denver who can afford to own property, and there's the Denver who carry the city on their back, who clean, who build, who care for elderly, and that's why I'm running. My slogan is Denver Workers First, and that means every policy that would come out of my office if I were to win would be directed at putting workers in this city first. And that's the community that I grew up in, a large Irish Catholic working class community. There were 9 of us, and they're somehow all with me here tonight, cheering me on from Western Pennsylvania. And I'll just say a quick word about the other work that I do, because my academic work, I'm a labor historian. So I study the history of the labor movement. I study the history of immigration, the struggle for acceptance. I study and research and write about community organizing, and study and research about social movements. So all of my academic work is about how communities find power and find agency.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Thomas Wolf. I've tried to mix this up a little bit, these types of events. Since it's about voting, I'm going to get a show of hands on Vote Zero, who loves Denver? Any hands? It's always kind of an interesting one, because some people immediately jerk it up. Some people might be flirting with Denver. Some people like, I'm thinking about breaking up with Denver, you know? It's like, eh. And then some people just raise a hand because it's like family. You know, you just love family, you got to deal with family. Sometimes you have to intervene with family, right? Sometimes there has to be tough love. I'm the candidate that sees the tough love as encampments in our city. The encampments are just destroying Denver from a mentally, physically, and financially. I'm a financial professional. I can give you some very horrifying stories on that front as to how that's affecting our city. I also have a science background, so first principles is that's what we have to solve. It's a large gaping hole, if we want to use a metaphor of a boat that's sinking the city. There are a lot of well-intended folks trying to do different things for these people, but that's just bailing water and the boat's still sinking. To not confront this issue is actually the most inhumane thing we can do. And the answer and the way to settle this crisis is to shelter the most neediest portion of our population. And the way to do that, there was mention of what we spend on an annual basis, but we also have a $10 billion balance sheet, which is land, property, vacant buildings, and so forth. It's the city's responsible to get these people housed and sheltered. Until we do that, we can do nothing else. That's the only thing I want to be known for, as a person that will actually have the action bias to get that resolved and then move on to other things. Thanks so much. Thomas Wolf.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lisa Calderon, and I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much to the organizers. I am, you might have heard of me. I ran before and came in third place in the last election. And according to a few polls now, I'm in the top 3 again with the women of color on this stage. And why that is significant, in part, is where I've come from. I have, for a time lived in Westwood, across the way. I was also dropped out of high school, but got back in, so I was able to graduate in time. It was due to awesome teachers, and teachers seeing the potential in me, and instilled in me a love of learning and teaching. In fact, the reason I was late tonight is because I was teaching class tonight at Regis University. I was able to find my path and to find my voice. I eventually completed my bachelor's degree and a master's and a law degree and a doctorate in education. One of the questions that I had continually sought in that educational process was, how do we make our communities better? How do we make them safer? How do we change behavior in an evidence-based way? I was a legal director for an abused women's program. I ran the city's reentry program. Those are 2 high homeless populations. And so I have directly addressed homelessness, and we have to start from the premise that homelessness is solvable. I also want to decentralize city government, support city workers who have been demoralized over the Hickenlooper-Hancock years, and give more power to community. The solutions are in our community, and I intend to carry out the will of the people. Thank you very much.
Hello, y'all. My name is Mike Johnston. Honored to be here tonight. I've had the privilege of spending the last 3 decades of my life serving Denver in different ways. I started off in my 20s as a school principal here. I ran a school in a juvenile prison down in South Denver for several years. I ran a school up in the Baker neighborhood that served all kids who lived in state custody, so kids have been removed from their homes for physical or sexual abuse. Then I took over a high school up in Thornton, where we took a high school that had about a 50% dropout rate, and with an amazing team of teachers, were able to turn it into what became the first public high school in Colorado history, where 100% of our seniors graduated from high school, and 100% of those seniors were admitted to 4-year colleges. But it was the fact that I realized that many of those students, when they came up onto a stage like this one to pick up their diploma with a dream of going to college, were undocumented. And because they were undocumented at that point, they couldn't go to college in Colorado without paying out-of-state tuition, was what inspired me to enter politics. And so I spent my 30s as a state senator representing Northeast Denver, fighting for that immigration reform to actually open the doors of college to all kids in the state, fighting for common sense gun safety on things like banning high-capacity magazines and requiring universal background checks. And then I've spent a good bulk of my 40s working in a community foundation here in Denver, focusing on some of the deepest issues that Denver is facing, including working on a measure in 2020 to pass universal preschool statewide, including running an organization called COVID Check, which many of you may have, if you ever had to get COVID tested or vaccinated, you probably came to one of our sites, and helping lead the effort in 2022 to pass Proposition 123, which put affordable housing and homelessness across the state with funding of up to $300 million. Now, for me, when you think about what we're facing tonight there is a mom with 2 kids who's a teacher in this school district trying to put kids to bed, wondering if she can pay rent at the end of this month. There are 1,400 people tonight in 20-degree weather trying to find some place to sleep tonight. There is someone who just got her first job at 25 who's looking out the window every hour to make sure her car is still there because she's afraid it might be stolen in the morning. That is a reality Denver faces right now, but I am running for this race because we know that does not have to be true for Denver.
Thank you.
We know these problems are solvable, and I'm excited to help solve them. Thanks for having me.
Can you hand the mic to Trinidad Rodriguez, please? We're going to jump into a round of questions. Candidates picked a number before sitting on the stage. Mike, I added you to the very last question. So the very first question goes to Trinidad Rodriguez and Aurelio Martinez, and is as follows. One minute, please, for these answers, so a quick response. Do you support the city's minimum wage law? If yes, have you done anything to promote it? If no, what is the appropriate minimum wage for the city of Denver?
Affordability is one of my deepest concerns about Denver. It is, I've developed a plan, a comprehensive plan on affordability, and part of it has to do with the key element of income. Income potential is something that we can invest in our neighbors, and it can never be taken away, unlike housing. And we all saw during the financial crisis how many foreclosures, evictions, and other ways of taking housing. So investing in knowledge and skills is my preference for how we boost wages in Denver. That is my plan for how we boost wages in Denver. I believe that we have done about as much minimum wage increase as we should. The minimum wage is artificial price control. It causes me very big concerns when we do it on a municipal level in particular, because you see arbitrage by businesses across city and county lines.
Okay, that's an easy question. Yes, I support the minimum wage, and I also think that it's not high enough. Let me tell you an example. The everyday people out there that work regular jobs, retail at Walmart, Kmart, Target, work in restaurants. If they're on the top of their pay scale and they're making $20 an hour, they're making under $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year is not enough to live in Denver. So we have to keep that minimum wage high enough so that people can be able to live here and not be forced to leave Denver. We have to keep the people here, and we have to make it available for people to come back that had to leave Denver. And that's a must. We have to keep the wage high enough so that people can afford to live here. Everyone's been to the grocery store. My goodness, we're paying a dime for bags now. Well, we used to be. I don't think they're even available anymore. Things are, yes. Yes.
Thank you. The second question is for Thomas Wolf and Kelly Bruff. Reads as follows.
You're not going in the order of that we drew numbers then? Okay.
Debbie, your question 3.
Okay.
Yep. So, second question is for Thomas Wolf and Kelly Bruff. Would you continue the homeless sweeps and continue to treat homelessness as a crime? If yes, how frequently and where would you sweep? If no, what is your plan regarding homelessness?
Thanks, James. What we do today is people who have nowhere to go camp in our neighborhoods, and then when there's concerns about public safety or public health, we sweep them to another neighborhood where it starts all over again, only to have these endless sweeps continue. I would stop that. I would instead house and shelter people and get people to a safe location. I would never criminalize being poor, just like I wouldn't criminalize addiction. But I would get people to sanctioned camping sites, available beds that are open today, and build the housing and sheltering so our people who are most vulnerable live in more humane conditions.
Yeah, so my comment was for sure the encampments have to go. But that's because we have to shelter them. It's a subset of homelessness. I'm just speaking on the encampments. Lost my train of thought there. But what you see if you've been in any of these encampments is criminal activity. You know, you can do a whole laundry list of what's happening: vagrancy, possession, illegal drugs, illegal firearms, stolen property. And that has been the case since we've had social unrest and the double whammy of the pandemic. So law and order has obviously suffered. We need to return to that. That's why I was saying we need to have some sort of armistice or truce that says, when we're confronting these people, say, here's the shelter opportunity, and it's the fork in the road between, you know, the laws being enforced and us trying to help you. The next thing we have are a number of services to direct them to for the mental and chemical issues.
Thank you. The third question is for Debbie Ortega and Jesse Parrish. Do you believe the safety budget, including the Denver Police Department, should be reduced? What is the appropriate level of budget for our safety department?
So let me first start by telling you that we have appalling staffing levels right now, both in our police and our sheriff's department. And having said that, I think Denver has done an amazing job supporting programs like the STAR program, where we now have responders that are both mental health workers and paramedics. So when the 311 operators get a phone call and it's somebody that's in crisis that is not an emergency situation that warrants a police officer to respond, they have been very successful addressing the immediate needs of those individuals. Many of those individuals need housing. We need to continue to work towards creating more affordable housing stock in our city. I intend to do that with manufactured housing, among some other solutions. But to get back to your question, I think we also need to make sure that we are adequately funding our police department, our sheriff's department, our fire department, all of our other city services that our residents in our city depend upon.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Certainly. Do you believe the safety budget, including the Denver Police Department, should be reduced? What is the appropriate level of budget for our safety department?
If you ask me, the police budget is too high as it is. Like 40% of our budget is going toward police and public safety. What are they really policing? There's been studies that show that more police does not equal less crime. So really, what are we throwing the money at? For them to terrorize and disturb our unhoused neighbors, which is my term, by the way, to respond to situations where you think the police are going to respond when the dispatch is an hour late and somebody could die as a result of waiting on 911. 911 is a joke in this city, and that needs to be changed. But throwing more money at the police is not going to solve that problem. We need to redirect those funds to programs like STAR, which I was responsible for, also responsible for helping to start. Rest in peace, Janet Van Locke, who was influential in getting that off the ground. So yeah, we can start with STAR, but STAR is not the solution. And also, STAR only services a certain segment of the city. It's not citywide.
The fourth question is for Kwame Spearman and Lisa Calderon. Is it city government's role to provide affordable housing? What is your plan to increase the amount of affordable housing in Denver?
So this is key to the neighborhood plan. We need to go to neighborhoods and understand what their residents want. In neighborhoods in which we're seeing people face gentrification and rising rent cost, we've got to do density. And we need a city government that can either incentivize development of density or can make a zoning policy that allows for density. And through that density, we can actually lower the prices of housing and rental for the city. The catch is right now what we're doing is we're building density for density's sake. And there are parts of the city that don't necessarily need that same level of density. And so we've got to go in to neighborhoods, understand where people are actually searching for those types of housing solutions, and then create a zoning policy that can be representative of it. But specifically, James, since I've got 30 seconds more, I think that housing is one of the biggest issues that are going to face the city right now. And we've got to have a mayor that understands how to stimulate housing development. As a small business owner, that's one of my areas of expertise. I understand how to manipulate a budget, incentivize development, and can get houses in the neighborhoods that want the density.
Thank you.
The short answer is yes, absolutely. And it's been something that I've been advocating for and pushing back on the current administration, because we continually heard them say, Denver isn't in the housing business, Denver City. Well, why not? If so much of our workforce relies on being able to both work and live in this city, then we should be making investments for them. We should be subsidizing people who we need to have in this city, our professional class, our teachers, our nurses, and yet we make it so difficult to be here. I have a 27-year-old daughter who did everything she was supposed to do, graduated, got her master's even. She cannot afford to live in Denver. We need to have options for her who doesn't qualify for the lowest income or the highest income. So we need that whole spectrum. But we need to do it through the lens of the people who are most vulnerable. They have the least options. I know, I've been there, I've lived in public housing. We need to have social housing like they do in Finland and other countries. So that's part of the housing spectrum plan that I would be promoting. Thank you.
The next question is for Jim Walsh and Ian Tafoya. Denver has one of the highest suicide rates among young people across the country. Is this an issue that requires more attention? If so, what is your plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's an issue of the time we live in. We're living in this time of a pandemic, living in a time with our youth are in crisis. It's interesting that I ended up with this question because my 12-year-old daughter was just hospitalized in psychiatric care for self-harm. So this happened last week. So I very intimately understand the crisis that our youth face, and this takes resources. It takes community work, it takes education, it takes parenting, it takes all of us. And that's all I want to say about it.
Well, I appreciate this question because I'm an educator. I approach everything through education. I actually had my first job at the Museum of Nature and Science as a teacher's assistant, and it was funded through Mayor Wellington Webb and his commitment to the youth of Denver. I learned to horseback ride and ski in the rec centers. I went to the libraries where I made sure I read every book so that I could get a piece of pizza. That was super important to me when I was little. It was a super motivator. What I can tell you is I actually gone on to be trained as a horticultural therapist from Colorado State University. Think art therapy but with plants. What can we do to put our hands back into the earth? What can we do to engage people in the community? And it also requires working with the Denver Public Schools. We have a Mayor's Office of Children Affairs. I intend to keep that office and continue to invest in our students. We need to invest in our rec centers. We need to invest in our outdoor opportunities and workforce development. There are jobs right now that are sitting empty in city government, like lifeguards, where we can give youth opportunities. I think it's really important for them to see a leader who can say, I came from a community just like yours with struggle, and it was because of these programs I'm here today. Thank you.
Next question is for Terrence Roberts and Chris Hansen. Should Denver plow more of its streets? If so, what is the appropriate budget amount for the city's plowing? As an example, our $3 million compares to Minneapolis's $13 million.
So of course the answer is yes, Denver does need to do more plowing. However, I do feel like, and I just told the Denver Gazette this the other day, we do need to have more of an emphasis on our elderly populations around places like Windsor Gardens. We need to have more of an emphasis around our schools, our middle schools, our side streets, our elementary schools, because that's where the community really is. The community is not walking in the middle of Broadway. The community is now walking in the middle of Colfax. Those streets get more engine heat, they get more traffic to decimate the snow. we need to have more of an emphasis on our side streets where all of us drive our cars, where we park our cars, where our children, our mothers, our fathers have to walk. So yes, we definitely need a more robust system. We need the employees, we need the equipment, and we need to make sure our budget is managed properly, whether it's raised from 3 million or stays 3 million, and that's what's going to get our streets safer in a city that has 6 months of cold weather.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the reason there were a few chuckles up here is because I was pretty frustrated a few weeks ago with this and was talking with the city about we have to do a better job when it comes to snow removal. I had a chance to call the head of Dottie, and I said, what's going on? I want to make sure I understand this. I don't want to just complain. What's the situation? And he said to me, super smart guy, he's done a ton of modeling on this, and he said, yeah, we're planning for 95% of the storms. Well, the storm that hit at the end of December was a 99% storm. And here's the problem. We're looking backward. We're using climate data from 2000 to plan our snow plowing. Guess what, folks? The weather in Denver has changed. We are getting heavier, wetter snows. That means we better change our budget for snow plowing. $3 million isn't adequate. All of us can see it on the side streets, even today. In the city code, it says solar plowing. Look it up. Solar plowing. In other words, let it melt. Is that working?
Thank you.
Absolutely not. Thanks, James.
And the final question for 3 candidates, Leslie Herod, Al Gardner, and Mike Johnston. Should Park Hill Golf Course remain open space? Do you believe the city should allow private sector developers to develop public land with conservation easements attached?
Well, this is an interesting question considering I live in Park Hill. So I want to thank you for this question. This is a really complicated issue that you cannot answer in 1 minute, but I'm going to try. First and foremost, what's going on in the Park Hill development is a sign of what is not working. People were not engaged or asked about what should happen with that space from the beginning. And now that project is moving at the speed of trust, and there is none. And that's a huge problem. Now we know we need more affordable housing, and that is a space that can happen. But the community doesn't believe that that will actually be affordable for those who live there or those who've been pushed out of Park Hill. And so to answer your question about should it be sold to developers, that's a question for the people of Park Hill. And right now it's going back to that vote. But I want to be clear, the people of Denver have already spoken. They said no. So if you want to change it, you got to go back to the people, and you better be direct about the question. Thank you.
It's simple. What do we value? And we value all 3 of these things. We value open space, we value affordable living, and actually we value commerce and we value business. That's a difficult place to be in. What I do support is the equality in all 3 of those things. Sometimes it's difficult to have those 3 exist in the same space, but I do believe that we can find ways to do that. That will be decided by a judge, and as Leslie just alluded to, the citizenry, and we have spoken that we do value open space. But it boils down to 3 things, what we value. We value open space, we also value affordable living. And affordable living is also accustomed to who actually can afford that living. And we have to make sure when we say it's affordable, who is it affordable for?
Thank you. I had an office for 10 years in North Park Hill around the corner from this site. And what I heard from community members over and over were 2 things. People in this room may know North Park Hill is the single largest food desert in the metro area. Right? It's the largest place without access to a grocery store. So one top priority is also access to a grocery store, which this development is considering. And the second is access to affordable housing. Right now it's also the last plurality black community left in Denver is North Park Hill. And those families are being pushed out more and more every single year. And so we know there's a dramatic need to be able to have affordable housing in that space and to be able to have a healthy grocery store. I think those are the two top priorities. And to make sure those units are going to be affordable for long term. So I think there has been an effort to try to find a balance between those two things. That's what the voters are going to decide. I believe we have to make a deep commitment to making sure there's affordable housing and to making sure that there's a grocery store, and those things should be top priorities. The voters are going to need to decide on this, but keep in mind, if you vote no, what that means is that's just a golf course back. So it is not a park. The no vote is not for a park, the no vote is to keep a golf course. And so I think that's the choice Denverites have to make now, and I think that's what voters will decide.
Go ahead and actually let's give the mic to Lisa Calderon. We're going to do one round of yes and no questions before we move to closing statements. Closing statements are going to be 1 minute, and the yes and no round, very simple. If it's a yes, raise your hand. If it's a no, don't raise your hand. 8 questions. Here we go. In the past, Denver mayors have disagreed as to whether the use of eminent domain is appropriate. Is eminent domain a tool that should ever be used by a Denver mayor?
For housing, yes.
Thank you. Number 2, are you in favor of criminalizing homelessness?
James, can I just say, because not everybody can see online, the people who said yes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's sure. Let's go back to the first one. With regard to eminent domain, can you please raise your hand? So Mike Johnston, Kelly Bruff, Chris Hansen, Debbie Ortega, Terrence Roberts, Trinidad Rodriguez, Kwame Spearman, Thomas Wolf. No hands were raised with regard to criminalizing homelessness. The third question, will you continue sweeps of the homeless? Thomas Wolf, Kwame Spearman, Trinidad Rodriguez, Debbie Ortega, Chris Hansen, Mike Johnston. Do you support the establishment of safe outdoor space camps? Every hand is raised except for Mr. Martinez, except for Aurelio Martinez.
Sanction. Sanction, that's what they are.
Do you support defunding the Denver Police Department? Mr. Parrish has raised his hand. Do you support establishing safe injection sites? Lisa Calderon, Jim Walsh, Ian Tafoya, Terrence Roberts, Debbie Ortega, Aurelio Martinez, Leslie Herod, and Jesse Parrish. Sorry? And Kwame Spearman, sorry. Do you support a percentage of all housing developments to be dedicated to affordable housing? All hands are raised except for Trinidad Rodriguez. And the final yes and no question. Do you support the development of Park Hill Golf Course as currently presented by the developer?
Let's move to the vote.
2 hands are raised, Debbie Ortega and Jesse Parrish. Thank you so much for staying on time, and we're going to move to closing remarks. Let's remember to move to the middle of the stage for the camera. Ms. Calderon, you're first, and we're just going to go follow down the line. You have 1 minute.
We are at an inflection point in Denver. We can learn from the past, but we need to have bold and fresh ideas for the future. For 12 years, we've been told what we can't do, it's time to reimagine Denver about what we can do. We have to have a complete overhaul of how we're doing city government. We cannot just keep nibbling around the edges around homelessness, affordable housing. We need someone who's going to get in there and be bold and bring in new visionaries and fresh leadership. So I have been 30 years working in this city, dedicating my life to change. And so now we have an opportunity to have a visionary leader who's been on the front lines as an organizer, as an educator, as a nonprofit executive. And so let's have a different way of doing Denver. So vote for me, Lisa Calderon. That's lisafordenver.com. And I look forward to seeing you out there when we're knocking on doors. Thank you so much.
I think I've been able to showcase that my processor works at a little different pace than my audio does. So I'm not a terrifically gifted public speaker. But as far as problem solving and seeing problems, diagnosing them, and then optimizing solutions from both a science and a financial background, that's me. I think the leadership of this city needs to have a lot more competency in those areas. I think it needs to have fresh, strong ideas that I think everybody up here has mentioned. I'm independent from that. I'm unaffiliated to any of the existing regime. I think we need regime change, and I would appreciate your vote in that regard. Thomas Wolf, thank you.
Hi everyone, I've been a professor at the University of Colorado Denver for 25 years. I've worked with young people my whole life. My entire campaign is run by my students and former students. None of us have ever done this before, so we are entirely a grassroots organization. I believe many of the issues we've discussed here tonight, including housing, gentrification, unhoused, are all symptoms of the same root. The root is we have a massive disparity of wealth in our society and our city. And everything that I want to do as mayor is to address that disparity of wealth directly, including collective bargaining for all public employees, worker cooperatives, a higher minimum wage, a minimum wage that's a living wage, more and stronger anti-wage theft laws to protect undocumented workers, and an expanded and strengthened universal basic income program and harm reduction for every issue involving public health.
Again, I'm just checking I'm on the mark. Again, I'm Ian Thomas Tafoya, fourth generation Denver. I've worked for 3 branches of local government. I've been a teacher. I've worked at every level of government. I've worked on dozens of ballot issues that have significantly changed the outcomes. Community groups, just like you all are putting this on today, have put in so much effort to write the plans for the city. Aren't we frustrated that every year goes by and we don't build our bike lanes, we don't build our affordable housing, we miss every single one of our 2020 sustainability goals? I personally have had enough. We've gone out and done the work to collect the signatures. I want to remind you, we can do this every day, bringing the community leaders who have worked together to get to a lot of the places we're at on a lot of these policies. I want you to see me as a collaborator, somebody who calls in all 4 directions like my native ancestors taught me to. We have to clean up our air, clean up our water, work together. That is the answer, and I know we can do it together. Come join us, tafoyafordenver.com. Thank you.
I fundamentally believe that our city is too large for a one-size-fits-all solution. And to figure out how we need to govern, we need a visionary change in the way that we think about Denver. And it's through our neighborhoods. I am inspired by all of the people who came out here tonight to participate in the debate. And I want you to have your voice heard. We're in a really, really difficult time right now. We've got to have solutions on homelessness. We've got to have solutions on crime. We've got to have solutions that can help our local economy. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we start believing in ourselves. And if we create a government that understands what you want, a government that makes you feel seen and you feel heard, and then can go out and act on that. What I've observed in Denver
over the past 2 to 3 years is that we are trying to push things down in our neighborhoods that our neighborhoods don't want. And that creates polarization. Instead, by figuring out what our neighborhoods are looking for, we can use the government, an incredibly strong mayor system, to go out and give our public what they're looking for.
It's a philosophical change, but it's one that we've got to make. We've got to empower you all. Thank you.
Testing. I've talked a little bit about my story of starting in West Denver. Well, I've gone on to live in Northwest Denver, North Denver, East Denver, all parts of Denver. Have invested so much of myself and my starting of a family, starting of a career, and so many other things. Denver all the time inspired me to act and invest more of myself in this city. And so that's exactly what I did. In addition to doing my work, I also actually gave through volunteerism, making time even when you don't have time. And that sets me apart from the other candidates. My vision is to make Denver a place where every Denverite, regardless of the neighborhood they're in, can go on to their version of success, and we can do that. Thank you.
Like I said earlier, and my name is Terrence Roberts, I am the least likely candidate to be on this stage, but I've done plenty of work from a 501c3 I started from my basement. I was able to raise over $7 million to not only build a youth center in Park Hill after a gang-related arson that started a huge gang war, which we have yet to be hear about this with our youth. But we also need to really start thinking about whoever our next mayor is going to be mayor for 12 years, guys. We need a two-term mayoral system in the city of Denver. Denver is too big of a place. We've got what we asked for, Denver. We need to get away from this conversation of affordable housing. It's owned by developers, my people. We need more public/social housing. Everyone up here is saying affordable housing. How are we going to pay for it? We need a public banking system in the city of Denver. Look at what Los Angeles is doing with a public banking system to deal with their 58,000 homeless people that's in Skid Row. Look at what Philadelphia is doing on Kensington Avenue. No one is moving from Colfax and Broadway into affordable housing. We need to bank our unhoused neighbors, and we need to pay for affordable housing, and we need to pay for public housing. Thank you very much. Sorry for going over that.
You're hearing a lot from all of us talking about many of the same issues. I've been working in the trenches with our neighborhoods, not only for the last 12 years as an at-large member across our city. I did that for 16 years as a district council member, and at the same time served on a housing board that was doing affordable housing across our city. We have units in many neighborhoods in Denver. And this the challenging times our city is dealing with really takes someone who knows and understands how our city works, from ensuring that our trash is picked up, especially now that you're having to pay for it, right? Making sure our potholes are filled, and that our streets are plowed. And these are issues that I have worked on ongoingly, making sure that you have someone that is always an advocate and a steward for our taxpayer dollars, and ensuring that you have someone that's looking out for the residents of our city. And I will continue to do that as your mayor. I ask for your support. DebbieOrtega.com.
Aurelio Martinez here. And I want to start this by saying, becoming mayor is not about me. It's about us. It can't be all about me, and I want to say that it's about the people that live here, it's about the people that work here, it's about the people that run their businesses here, it's about all of us. And if the mayor has to make sure that he does what he can to make Denver that type of city that's going to be for everyone, and that's what I'll do. I want to finish with saying I want to talk very strongly about the youth in this city. I see that we're all here, and we all care about our neighborhood, but where's our teenagers? Where's our youth? they feel left out in this city. They feel like no one cares for them. Sometimes it just takes this administration to care for our youth, to give them opportunity. We will revamp the recreation centers so that we can bring back the programs for the youth so they can have something to do other than just sit in the parks. That's one of my priorities, and that will happen. We need to protect our youth. We need to give them a road of opportunity because they are our future leaders, and they will be the ones that will be in control. So thank you very much.
Thank you. As I was sitting there thinking about what I was going to say, it was really hard for me because my heart is breaking for you, Professor. I don't want us to glaze over what you just talked about, what you're going through with your family, with your kids. I will help. Let us help. I'm emotional because we talk about what we're going to do, but our people in our city are breaking. We're in crisis. We've got to help each other. We've got to reach out to each other. This can't be just about, you know, who's got the biggest ego, or who's got the best plan, or who can write the thing on paper. We've got to care about the people of Denver. And when we hear something like this and we just glaze over it, what are we here for? So I'm just going to use my time for that. You know, if folks want to hear about my platform, I'll be around. I'm always around. I just left another event in Cheatham Park to have a conversation, and people are still struggling. We've got to do something about it, and we can do something about it. Denver can do better. Denver is ready for the challenge. LeslieForMayor.com. Thank you. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure and an honor to spend this time with you tonight. This is a moment in Denver for a very serious conversation. We're at a fork in the road. I think we're all feeling some frustration about the city we love not working as well as it should. I'm reminded tonight of something that always stuck out to me from the small farm town I grew up in out on the plains. And that was harvest time, where everybody had to come together to get the harvest done. This is a moment in Denver we're going to have to rally. We're going to have to come together to tackle safety issues, homelessness issues, affordability issues, making the city the greenest city in America. But it's going to take a group effort. And we need someone in the mayor's office who can build a diverse and talented team to take this on. I'm here tonight to ask for your support. Chris Hansen for Denver Mayor. Thank you.
I would be new to being elected, but I'm not new to public service. I've served voluntarily the city of Denver for almost the past 10 years on the Citizens Oversight Board, where I served as chair when we worked with bringing the independent monitor to more of a truly independent position. And I currently serve the city of Denver as a board member of the Civil Service Commission. Also served with the Denver African American Commission for a number of years. So I would not be new to service. The most principled and important thing in a leader is having the ability to connect and understand people and not being selfish with the power and the ability that has been given to the office. That you cannot teach. You can teach X's and O's, ones and twos, but you cannot teach someone to be empathetic. Value your vote and look for that empathy in all of us and look for the desire in all of us to serve. Thank you.
First, I want to say to Principal Gutierrez, thank you for hosting us. Thank you all for coming, and much love to you and your family. My name is Kelly Bruff. I've never run for office before, and I won't run for another office. I'm running to be the mayor because I think my history and my experience has uniquely qualified me for this moment we're in our city. And I'm committed, like all of you, to ensure we're leaving to our kids and the next generation a city we can be proud of and frankly they can be grateful for, and we're not doing that today. So I'm running because the three issues that I think are most critical for all of us, affecting all of our lives, are our communities are not as safe as they should be, and we can make them safer, and it's the fundamental responsibility of government to do so. We can house and shelter people who are unhoused in our city today, and we can create the housing that allows all of our workers to live and own homes in our city again. It would be an honor to work with you in that capacity. Again, Kelly Bruff at kellybruff.com. I'm learning as a candidate. Thank you all so much.
Yes, good evening. My name is Justin LaShawn Paris, as I've already stated. This is not my first rodeo. I ran for city council at large in 2019, where I got almost 15,000 votes with no money. And I'm still waiting, I'm still holding Denver to the promise of we can do better. 4 years ago, Denver City Council and the Denver Mayor launched an initiative against Initiative 300, which is going to give people the basic right to survive on the streets of Denver. If you don't know, you could be criminalized, arrested, ticketed, and harassed just for covering yourself with a tent, a tarp, a sleeping bag, anything besides your own clothing is deemed illegal in the city and county of Denver. And under the Paris administration, I would change that. We need to repeal the urban camping ban. This inhumane ban that's been in effect for the past 13 years going on. We can do better, Denver. And I'm not gonna sit up here and give you all these false promises and what I'm going to do and all this and that. I'm just gonna tell you, look, Denver, we have the opportunity now to actually live up to the promise of doing better. So if you're tired of being ethnically cleansed, gentrified out of your communities, vote Team Paris, JesseDenverMayor.com, support the campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the biggest problem that Denver faces right now is the belief that these problems are unsolvable. We know that they're solvable. We actually should expect that they'll be solved. I believe deeply that Denver could be America's best city. It could be a place where, yes, the economy is thriving and there are wonderful places to eat and play. We might even have great sports teams too at some point, that's possible. But also it could be the first city where at night there is no one that has to sleep in the street. It could be a city where, while the economy grows, teachers and nurses and firefighters can still afford to live in the city that they serve. It can be a place where you can take your kids and your grandkids out downtown and sit on a restaurant patio and let them run around and play and not ever worry that they're going to be safe. You can walk outside your door or any other door and feel like you're at home. That is what Denver can be. And that is what this election is about. And as together we can make that dream a reality with your help. My name is Mike Johnston. I'd love to be your next mayor. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give all of our 15 candidates a round of applause. Principal Gutierrez, thank you so much for opening up Godsman.